No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Celebrity designer Jeff Lewis is back with Hollywood House Lift.
I'm excited to be working with new clients.
I'm not getting rid of that.
I hope I never see you both again.
Yeah. An all-new season.
Those have to go. That has to go.
From oh, wow,
It's been an actual nightmare.
to oh, wow.
This is such an upgrade.
With celebrities like Josh Duhamel, Christina Ricci, and Gina Rodriguez.
Dazzle me, Jeff.
It looks like Chuck E. Cheese.
Stream an all-new season of Hollywood House Lift with Jeff Lewis, now streaming on Freevee.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, so wouldn't you know it, the intro won't load. Everything's being glitchy, but we're here. We're live. It's Friday. We're doing this thing anyway, and I'm joined by one of our regular contributors, none other than Miss Amy Curtis. Good evening, or good evening, good afternoon, wherever the hell we are.
Yeah, it's after 2 o'clock, just after 2 o'clock Central Time, so well into the afternoon for me here. But
Yeah,
thanks for having me on.
for me, same time zone. But yeah, I for some reason I always get flustered when tech things go sideways. You figure with me doing this for almost 20 years now, I'd be used to when things go sideways, but apparently not.
I
Anyway.
always get flustered when things go sideways, so
We're here. We're live. Yay, fun times. And yeah, I can't even access where I pull the stuff from to find out why it's not letting me load it. It's just frozen. So, yay, fun times. Anyway, so how are things with you? And we were talking a bit in the green room, and you've been having some weather stuff kind of like me.
Yes.
So
yeah, I'll be checking in on the radar and the National Weather Service that I have in my Twitter feed, because for the third day this week, we're supposed to get severe storms, tornadoes, hail. They got hail to my west, the size of softballs, grapefruits, what have you, that did some damage. We got an F3 tornado in Waukesha County. No, I take it back. Dodge County, and we got an F2 tornado in Waukesha County. We had a little one near Mayfair Mall, which isn't far from where my kid goes to school. So it's been a week. Lots and lots of rain, lots of street flooding. I am very much over it. We made the 1 a.m. run to my mom's house because they said there were tornadoes coming. I live in a mobile home, not exactly conducive to safety when there's bad storms. So we'll be heading out somewhere safe this afternoon as soon as we get off the air, just to hunker down until this round blows through, and hopefully that'll be the end of it.
hopefully, but it is unfortunately
It is April in Wisconsin, and unlike my Secretary of State, Democrat Sarah Godlewski, I know this is normal. She had a meltdown the other day because she had golf ball size hail in her yard and was literally screaming about how we need to do something about climate change because we've never had hail like that in Wisconsin before. Spoiler alert, we have, including one of the biggest ever recorded, which was like 5.7 inches in diameter, and that was in 1921. pretty sure my SUV, well, I don't have my SUV anymore. My son drives it. Didn't cause that. But what do I know?
But no, it's interesting. 'Cause that's their go-to, right?
Mhm.
But the funny thing is if you look at all the things that they want to talk about all the time with all the climate change stuff, let's not forget a lot of us, and I know they usually target younger people with this because I remember when it became a thing way back for me. I think it was in 3rd or 4th grade when that stuff really started showing up. But it was, one of these things where they get the youngsters on board and get them paranoid and freaking out because, oh my God, we're all going to die. And then they move the envelope 10 or 15 years down the road every time something doesn't come to pass. Let's not forget that according to Al Gore, we were supposed to be polar ice cap about 11 years ago.
Yeah, Greta Thunberg said by 2023 we were all going to die. Michael Moore said the same thing. They were saying that when I'm a little bit younger than you, but going back to elementary school, we were going to have acid rain and the hole in the ozone, and I wasn't going to be able to grow up and have kids because the world would be this hellscape because of climate change. Well, at the time it was global warming, but you get my point. Here we are, a beautiful day. Yeah, we're getting storms, but that's not unusual for Wisconsin in April. And next week it's going to be 30 at night. So,
yeah, I mean, the thing about this is, and this is, I love how you said you're a little bit younger than me. I think we both know that's not entirely accurate, but that's okay. I appreciate that. But yeah, I remember growing up, it was global cooling first, then it was global warming, then it was acid rain, then it was the ozone layer, then it was back to global warming, and then they eventually just said, we're just going to call it climate change because then we don't keep having to change the name. Kind of what happened. And
because then they could put everything under the umbrella. It's too cold in January. Oh, that's climate change. Too warm in July. Oh, that's climate change. Hail in your yard. That's climate change too. It's just a catch-all term so that they can pass all of their stupid watermelon agenda, which is green on the outside and communist on the inside.
It's there. I don't remember what brand of watermelon it is that's usually yellow on the inside, but yeah, it's one of those because it's green on the inside, yellow, or green on the outside, yellow on the inside. Damn commies. So yeah, fun times. But yeah, no, it's just been crazy to watch because of course it's been happening all over the place again. There was somebody, I don't remember who it was, about the same time last week who was screaming and yelling about climate change again, and I'm just like, really, that's what that's what you guys are going to keep going with, huh? Because you don't know what to do or say anymore. So you just let's blame it all on this. And yeah, what do I know?
Right.
But yeah, so speaking of the news, of course, we woke up this morning to Chuck Schumer looking like an idiot again, which is nothing new because just the other day he was screaming and yelling on the Senate that Donald Trump got us in the middle of a war that he didn't know how to get us out of, and suddenly Iran is like, maybe this blockade idea wasn't such a good thing. So anyway, yeah. Woke up to that news and everybody looking at the markets and the oil prices, and of course, none of the Democrats are talking about those things anymore. No one, but yeah. So that was fun.
Yeah. No, it's a day ending in day, and the Democrats make a fool of themselves. So it seems to be what they do best. Without a doubt. I know I saw Obama was shilling and lying about the redistricting referendum. He posted a video on Twitter a couple of hours ago saying, go vote because you're going to make the maps fair and stick it to the Republicans by disenfranchising half the state of Virginia. It's a lie. I don't live in Virginia. Go vote if you do, and vote no. Unless you want to have these crazy Democrats like Spanberger run your state for the next 20 years, go vote no.
Oh, yes. Well, she's doing everything she can to make sure that happens, even if she's not going to be the one that's going to be able to do it. Because Virginia, I don't really understand how or why they do things the way they do, because governors can run for more than one term, but they cannot run for 2 consecutive terms, which I find weird. But
given the quality of some of the candidates the last several cycles, I'm okay with that.
I mean, I'm just if Youngkin could have won again or run again, we probably wouldn't be in this mess.
I don't know, because I don't know if Youngkin for a brief window of time had control of not just the governor's house but the state legislature, and like all Republicans, didn't capitalize it. For crying out loud, it took him months, if not a year almost, to pardon the dad, the father of that Loudoun County school student who was sexually assaulted, the one that they arrested for speaking out at the school board meeting. That should have been a day one thing. It took him months to pardon that dad. And part of why Winsome Earl Sears didn't do as well as she should have was because it was such a milquetoast administration. There wasn't anything that remarkable out of Youngkin that impressed the voters. And that's the problem with Republicans across the board. Elect us and we'll do these things. You elect them, they don't do these things. And it's always because, well, we don't have the majority, or we can't do that, or there's a million excuses why they don't do the things they were elected to do. And then they wonder why voters go, fine, why bother voting for you? We see that nationally with the Republicans who refuse to pass the SAVE Act, who we can't do that. You know, the Democrats, if the parties were reversed, but the majorities were the same, the Democrats would figure out a way to get that legislation through. They do that every single time, and Republicans can't seem to. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, they would basically ram it through if nothing else. But
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, so I mean, you're not wrong, and I mean, there are a lot of things that I've been unhappy with the Congress critters, especially what they just tried to do with FISA last night. I think it was last night.
Yep.
It was like the night before. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was like in the wee hours of the morning, which is scummy as hell.
Yeah, the Republicans tried to do the Democrat thing.
We're
gonna wait till everybody's asleep. But yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, and I know Trump has now changed his mind again on FISA because he liked it when he was president in his first term. Once he got to see what he could do with it, then he didn't like it when they used it against him, and now he's back to liking it again. I have never liked FISA. It's bad policy. It's bad precedent. And even if you like it when somebody that you trust is using it, just remember eventually the other side does, in fact, get a turn. And we've already seen what they'll do with it.
Yep,
so
exactly.
It's always been bad policy. And it's funny because lately I have not agreed with Thomas Massie on much of anything, but he's kind of in broken clock territory for me because, you know, he's right on this one, and even they're right once in a while. But not something that I enjoy having to say, especially lately. But yeah, so Thomas Massie got one right, and I hope the Senate does the right thing when it comes to this FISA crap. But I think there's going to be a lot of posturing, and then I think they're going to do it anyway because they always do.
They always do. They always do. I'm hoping that they just hold, because the House also 10 Republicans shifted and voted with Democrats to extend temporary, which is a word rendered utterly meaningless by this Congress, protection status for the Haitians in this country. And it comes, a week and a half, maybe, after a Haitian bashed in a woman's head with a hammer in Florida. Like, the Congress is so out of touch with the American people, it's ridiculous.
But no, I mean, you're right. This happened. This is something that they just did in Congress. Kind of, sort of, at night again when nobody was paying attention. Said, hey, yeah, no, the Haitians, yeah, they deserve their special treatment right after this story broke, and they don't.
No, they don't. Well, we need the Haitians to be our healthcare workers and pick our crops and do all these other things. No, you don't. No, you don't. Pay living wages and hire Americans to do it. Seriously, this notion that, well, we have to hire these people for slave wages to do these jobs. Okay. And something like 65% of them are on welfare anyway. So they are a net detraction from every neighborhood that they end up in. But, we can't send them back to Haiti. Haiti is too dangerous. They'll die. Pretty much remember a couple years ago when all you people said Trump was wrong for calling it a shithole. Now you're all admitting, yeah, he was kind of right. It is a shithole because now we can't send these people back there.
That was the funny thing, right? Because that's been their argument the entire time. Because Trump was trying to do all this stuff in his first term, and of course he had even more pushback then than he does now. So he didn't manage to get a lot of it done. But the funniest thing about that is listening to everybody that was freaking out even back then when he started saying, "Hey, we're importing all the bad things from all these third world shitholes." And then all the Democrats got offended. But then when we kept saying, well, if the places aren't so bad, why can't we send them back? Well, you see. So, yeah, thanks for the tacit agreement after.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yay for Republicans.
yeah, seriously. Some of these Republicans might as well have a Democrat in that seat because you vote no differently. One of them, of course, was Salazar, who's pushing that Dignity Act, which needs to die before it, gets out of the cradle, because it's just the amnesty and it's the same song and dance we got when Reagan did it in 86. We'll do this. We'll enforce the border. It'll all be good. And 30 years from now, we'll be right back where we are. At that point, I'll be in my 70s and too old to give a shit. But I care about my kids and my grandkids, and I don't want them to have to keep going through this nightmare. So,
yeah, you would think we could figure some of this stuff out. Rooster in the chat makes a valid point. We're gonna fix all this in the next congressional session. Only really works for so many sessions, and that seems to be their refrain every single time. Is, well, we'll fix it better next time, promise.
Right. They won't fix it because then they wouldn't need a job, and it goes back to my solution for everybody's like, we need term limits, we need to do this for solutions for fixing the issue. No, what we need to do is we need to make it a part-time job with no benefits, so that it's really a public service and not this grifting career where you go in broke like Ilhan Omar and then end up being worth 7 figures 2 years later. You go to DC part-time, you pass laws, you come back, live and work in the district where you have to live with the laws you pass on the rest of us. It would solve a vast majority of our problems.
So I have been of that same mindset for a while, and every time I bring it up, people that claim to understand this system much better than I do are like, but you don't understand. That just means that the Democrats and the Republicans would be even more concerned with lobbyists and funding things that way, et cetera. And I'm like, no, they shouldn't be. But I'm willing to take it a step further. I'm not saying they don't deserve a salary. What I am saying is, with technology the way it is today, they should be spending at least 80% of the time in their districts. So they do have to watch the people that are living with the choices that they've made. And what we should do is pay them like we pay wait staff until the end of the year, and then everybody gets to vote on whether they're Congress critters and senators get the rest of their paychecks or not.
Right. I'm fine with a nominal salary for your time, but you're not going to be able to live and pay the bills on it. You're not going to get federal benefits. You're not going to get a pension. You serve your nation, then you go back to doing what you normally do, because what we've got now clearly isn't working. People go there, they lose their minds, they get rich, they make our lives a living hell, and then they walk away and wash their hands. Yeah. And something needs to change.
We have an entire political system of Pontius Pilates that are all cool with it when they're in, but once they're on their way out the door, they're like, yeah, nope, I'm done with it. It's your problem now. But yeah, so that's definitely a valid point. But yeah, I mean, everybody seems to forget that when we first established all this stuff, and I say we in the collective, not royal, because I wasn't alive, but when they first set all this stuff up, there was no congressional salary. They got a per diem during travel. They went and did what they had to do, and then they got a per diem on their way back home, and then they went back and they did their actual day jobs. But part of what happened, and again, it's because people were like, well, how do we know they're not being unduly influenced by people and being given favors, etc.? So let's give them a salary instead. And then all we did was start lining their pockets, because then they got their salaries, then they got their gold ticket healthcare, and they got their forever retirement plans after they're in for so long, which is the real reason Marjorie Taylor Greene stayed in as long as she did. She hit that cap before she punched out.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just a mess to me. None of that should exist anymore. One, if you want the government to fix healthcare, they should have to use whatever system we have, and then I guarantee you they'll figure out a way to fix it that works for everybody. If that is an issue for you, I don't think healthcare should be something the government is involved in, if I'm completely honest.
No, it shouldn't be.
Because everything the government touches gets much, much worse.
And we see that
every day.
Every day.
Which is an interesting segue for one of the other things that I was going to bring up, because none other than the commie Mamdani has basically pointed out that, hey, that whole city-run grocery store thing we were going to do, we're still going to do it, but it's going to take us a little over a year to get there. And the first store is going to chew up about half the budget that I have proposed for it. So good luck getting the rest of them.
Yeah, I saw that. And then there was other reports that the big sort of flagship government-run store won't open for 3 years and will cost $30 million. And his plan is one of these stores in each of the 5 boroughs Does he have any idea how many people live in each of the 5 boroughs? Because in all of them, it's well over 1 million. In some, it's over 2 million. And you're going to open one grocery store for all those people. Oh, and the best part was not every grocery item in there is going to be cheap. A basket of goods is going to be cheap, and it's probably going to be staples like bread. The irony is not lost on me. Milk, eggs, those sort of things. It's going to be a disaster. There is a government-run grocery store in Kansas. They just ran a news story about it. I think I didn't write about it when I was back with you at Twitch. I think it was Doug. The shelves are empty. The store smells like rotten food all the time. People come in and steal stuff. And given the propensity of New York to not prosecute people for things like theft, those stores are going to be robbed blind the second the doors open. And they're going to sit there empty, and it's going to be $30 million absolutely wasted. In a city, mind you, where he says they are broke. And then he films a tax the rich commercial outside of the property of a private New York citizen who he just doesn't like because the guy's got a lot of money. But remember, his wife is a private citizen. Don't you dare criticize the things she said about Jews, because she has nothing to do with his administration and she's a private person. Okay, so was, I can't think of the name of the poor guy that he targeted, but so is that guy. That guy's a private citizen. And what Mamdani's doing, as far as I'm concerned, is a subtle incitement to violence. It's, here's where this guy lives. He's rich. He's the reason you're poor. Come do something to him. Like all good socialists do.
Well, and then so Mr. Good Socialist decides that they're gonna start more of his tax the rich campaign. So now apparently, if you own a property above a certain amount, you're gonna pay a luxury tax for owning that particular property. That's gotta. I don't know if that was her, or I think it may have been Governor Hoochie Cooch actually behind that one. But he's sure talking about it a lot because he's happy.
Yeah, they're right. What harm is that property doing just sitting here? They're still paying taxes. They're still paying for utilities and services that they don't use regularly, unlike the rest of the New Yorkers who live there. That literally is doing nobody's harm. But what they see is wealth, and they want it because they're insanely greedy. And they think they know better about what to do with that money than the people who worked and earned to buy a property in New York. And what's going to happen, and I can see this coming a mile away, these people are going to sell these properties, and then you're not going to get the tax revenue from them. They're done. People are just going to pick up stakes and leave, the people who can. And that's the smart thing to do. And you're not going to be able to tax them on the way out of the door. You're not going to be able to hunt them down and get retroactive taxes from them, because that's a violation of the Constitution. You guys are shooting yourselves in the foot.
Well, so speaking of Mamdani, because this story actually just took a bit of another twist. But before we get to the twist, let's watch the commercial that sparked most of what we're talking about right now. As soon as I can get my computer to agree with me here. All right, and here we go.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich. I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax, the first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time in the city. Like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million. This pied-à-terre tax is specifically designed for the richest of the rich, those who store their wealth in New York City real estate, but who don't actually live here. But even so, they're able to reap the huge financial rewards of owning property in, dare I say, the greatest city in the world. And most of the time, these units are sitting empty, since again, they don't actually live here. This is a fundamentally unfair system that hurts working New Yorkers. Now, it's coming to an end. This tax will raise at least $500 million directly for the city. It'll help fund things like free childcare, cleaner streets, and safer neighborhoods. As mayor, I believe everyone has a role to play in contributing to our city, and some a little bit more than others. Happy Tax Day, New York.
He's such an arrogant douche, and I might remind you, his family has a $40 million fortune and a compound in Uganda. Give us some of that money, Mamdani. Pay up.
Yeah,
you're rich too.
That's actually where I was
seriously
about to go. This dude's got a giant compound in Uganda, has an estimated wealth of around $40 million, and he's still talking about taxing the rich. In his response to Happy Tax Day, I don't live in New York City, but I'm still going to say this: taxation is theft, bitch. Shut up.
It is, and I want somebody to ask him, and they won't. How is this guy owning a property in New York City but not living there full time harming working New Yorkers? Please explain it to me.
Because
he's paying a property tax He's paying for goods and services he does not use because he doesn't live there. How is that harming New Yorkers? I want an answer.
Okay, so got to do it.
I won't get one, but I do.
Got to do this real quick for Rooster. In the chat, only a socialist would say happy tax day unironically. Is that right? But yeah, so I thought that was funny because now everybody's like, wait a minute, dude's got a net worth of $40 million and a compound in another country, but he wants to talk about people that have compounds and rich properties here.
Right.
But
live by your own rules. That's all I ask. You want to take money from the wealthy? Fine. Pay up first. That's all I ask, is some consistency and a lack of hypocrisy. But we never get that. Taxes are the stuff you and I have to pay.
Yeah.
Gun laws are the things you and I have to obey. The green travel restrictions that they keep dreaming about, those only apply to us. What's his face? John Kerry. He can take a private jet to whatever conference he needs to because he's special and I'm not.
Well, yeah, it's the rules for thee but not for me crowd. And they've always been that way. And it just drives me nuts because, the whole thing of all of this is, the simple fact of the matter is these programs don't work. Don't forget some of these things that they've tried before where they were starting to try to do automated grocery stores because they were less expensive. And then those didn't work because people were just finding ways to rip off the stores and there was no real way to stop it. So remember when there was supposed to be like an Amazon market on every corner about 10 years or so ago?
Yep.
We're like, this is going to be a wave of the future. No staff, no nothing. And you just walk in, grab what you want. And since you've set up your profile before with Amazon, they make you pay on the way out the door. And then people were figuring out how not to do that because if you don't have an Amazon profile, there's nothing for them to scan for them to be able to make sure that you pay them.
Right. Right. I still occasionally see them in airports. I have an issue with using them because I don't like this notion of we know who you are, so we're just going to charge you because you came into our grocery store. But yet that's the only place I see them is in airports and usually after you get through security. So people are less likely to steal from them because, TSA will be up your ass in 2 seconds if you do. So, okay. But yeah, like you said, they don't understand human nature. You need a civil society governed by strict laws and a moral people in order to make things work. And these programs don't work because they've done away with that morality part of it and the sort of social structure, strict confines that keep people in check.
Oh, well, so since we were in New York already, this is interesting. We've got a bit of a clip. It looks like this just came out a little bit ago and was actually from our friends over at Red State. But this is apparently something else that's currently happening in New York as we speak. And it has all kinds of things to do with the illegal aliens driving.
The response from Kathy Hochul in New York was, listen, we didn't do anything wrong. We followed the rules. But the truth is they actually gave commercial driver's licenses to people who are in the country illegally. And to your point, they'd give an 8-year license to someone who might only be legally in the country for another 3 or 4 months. And so this was actually brought up to Kathy Hochul in December. I don't want to pull money from New York. I want to work with New York. I want them to follow the rules in New York. They completely rejected our offer to cooperate. And so that's step one. We pulled $73 million. We pulled that today. And then looking forward, if they don't get into compliance, there's additional tranches of money we can pull.
All right. So, so the same people that are, telling you how this is not an issue and shouldn't even be worried about, even though places like New York and California are issuing licenses with no name given for commercial use, which is illegal to begin with. Yeah, so I'm glad to see the administration is starting to get tough with these people. I mean, so I've been kind of critical of them lately because of the things that aren't happening that should be, but there is lots of progress being made. It's just not happening with the speed with which I believe it should be happening with things like the SAVE Act, etc. But they are getting a lot of things right. This is another one where I think they're using the congressional purse strings in the right way. I've also heard rumors that Trump is starting to talk about pulling federal funds from sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. And I'm sorry, remember when Texas was trying to enforce actual federal laws, and the government said, no, you can't do that. And if you keep trying, we're going to pull your funding. Nobody on that side said boo. But now that we're trying to do the same thing, they're like, oh, that's unconstitutional. It wasn't.
No, actually, it's not. Congress controls the purse strings. I mean, yeah, and they'll go to court and they'll get some judge to say, you can't do that, like they did when Congress defunded Planned Parenthood and NPR and PBS. But that is literally the role of Congress. They get to decide who spends what. And that's their constitutional right and duty.
You said duty. Just kidding. Sorry. I've been around my granddaughter today. She's home from school. So anyway, she giggles every time somebody says that word. So it's kind of stuck in my head now. All right. So anyway, speaking of words that should make sense but don't, did you hear about the recent exchange with HHS Secretary Kennedy and a couple of different senators?
There were several things from that exchange. So yes, probably.
So
which one are we narrowing in
on? The
on?
one we're starting with is the exchange with Miss Sewell, and I have the clip right here. So let's let everybody else listen in case they haven't heard this yet. It's not very long.
Have you ever reparented or parented, I should say, a black child?
I don't even know what that phrase means, and I doubt that
a yes or no answer.
I doubt that I said that phrase. No,
absolutely
I'm not going to answer something that I didn't say.
You absolutely said it.
Oh, I'd like to hear the recording.
So to be
Because
clear,
it doesn't
sir,
make any sense. I don't even know what it means.
I don't either. That's why I'm asking.
And by the way,
so to be clear, you're not a doctor, you have no medical degree, and you have no formal medical training. You have never parented a black child.
24 of the 26 HHS secretaries have not had medical degrees.
This is my time.
Yeah, it's your time because you're getting your ass handed to you.
Right.
I mean,
right. Yeah, I remember that exchange. That was absolutely ridiculous. Because apparently she claimed he said something about reparenting children with autism that he says he never did. And okay, I don't understand why she was so outraged by that or what black children had to do with it, unless she's implying, as others have, misbehaving is just part of black culture, which is incredibly racist. And we've seen that policy pop up in school districts across the country where we have to accept a certain level of misbehavior in the classroom because that's just how those kids are. That's just how their culture is. If that's what she's referring to, well, wow. But he was right. 24 of the 26 Health and Human Services Secretary did not have medical degrees.
I mean,
so this notion that you need a medical degree to be the Health and Human Services Secretary, for crying out loud, last administration, we had a Health and Human Services Secretary who thought he was a woman, the assistant, excuse me. But
yeah,
I think that's a little more problematic than, I mean, no wrong. Kennedy says some weird things.
Yeah.
The raccoon penis thing was bizarre.
Yeah, seriously.
But I also think he's got a point, and he addresses concerns that other people don't take seriously, like the vaccine concerns. You know, the food concerns, the chemicals in our food supply concerns. I think those are legitimate issues that people haven't taken seriously until now, which is why he does. But yeah, you were right. She absolutely got her ass handed to her. She didn't let him even explain what this means. But also, as a mom of a kid with a high functioning kid with autism, they need discipline, they need routine, they need consistency. Those are the things that help them cope with the neurodivergence that's going on. And sometimes that means parenting them as opposed to tossing them a cell phone and saying, get out of my hair, pay attention, which I saw a lot when I was a SPED teacher. That was the babysitter as opposed to, I'm going to be mom. And don't get me wrong, I am not the perfect mom. Never said I was. But there are certain things that you have to do as a parent, especially if you have a special needs child, to go above and beyond.
It's just really interesting to me. And I know it would have been a terrible soundbite, but this is probably why I'm not in public office, because I would have been a total smart ass when she says, have you ever reparented parented a black child? I've been like, yeah, sure. I was always a parent of a poor black child, and tried to make it sound like Steve Martin, but yeah, probably. Yeah.
And they would have lost their minds and it would have been hysterical.
But yeah, speaking of losing their minds and being hysterical, let's give folks this little clip from a partner group that I work with from Buffoon of the Week category. And this is The rapid decline of Eric Swalwell, kind of summed up in about a minute and a half, I think. Yeah, here we go. Ready?
How's your relationship with Eric? Are you guys still friends?
Eric who? Allow me to remind you. Eric's a man of integrity, a man of character, values, and a great leader.
So you're dropping out of the race.
I am dropping out of the race and supporting Eric Swalwell.
Now, there's your first mistake.
We have spoken with 4 women who have various kinds of sexual misconduct claims against Congressman Swalwell, ranging from inappropriate messages and pictures to unwanted kissing and touching, and in one case, rape.
Well, consider me reminded.
Did you suspect this at all?
No! I was blown away. Like, blown.
All right, so I'm stopping here for just a moment because I want this guy's face on the screen because Gene did this on purpose because I made this comment the other day, and I know that's why he included Rhett Foreman. But does this or does this not look like Don Stark aged about today? Just saying. And once I said that to Gene, he's like, "Now I'll never be able to unsee it." So I'm pretty sure he threw Red Foreman in there just so I'd say this again.
Away. Like, there's no way I would have endorsed him.
I am shocked. Shocked. Well, not that shocked.
I was gonna say first, say you're mad. I mean,
Mad?
Yeah.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you?
I am no longer a Democrat. I'm now a libertarian Republican.
All right, got to stop here too because I'm just about positive this guy did a couple of reels before this interview.
Oh, well, thank you for stopping that because I wrote about this and I read his comments. I didn't actually see him say them. I hope this is the first time he said it because it sounds like he made that up on the spot. Like, I need to say something to them. What can I say that's going to get a soundbite? I'm no longer a Democrat. Like, you can see the synapses firing as he decides to say it, and the way it sounds so fake. It sounds like he made that up in the last 10 seconds.
Oh, he doubles down in a few seconds, so here we go.
Okay, all right, let's go.
We accept that one of us.
Don't bust the trust. You bust the trust, you don't exist in my life. I am now a Republican.
Oh, yeah, fun times. It has been a really rough few weeks for Democrats. But so before we get to this, and anybody, if you got children listening, earmuffs in 3, 2, 1. I would only like to point out that Swalwell apparently busted the trust while busting a nut.
I'm sorry, there is no way anybody who spent any appreciable amount of time with Eric Swalwell didn't know what was going on. It was widely known, not only in Democratic circles, but in the media, the left-wing media as well. Oh, that we'll circle back to that in a second. That this guy had a penchant for women, and they all looked the other way because he was a reliable Democratic vote. And now the working theory is he didn't want to drop out of the race, and they were worried he was going to mess him over for governor. So that's why they gave him the boot, and all of this stuff dropped now. But had he not been an impediment to the California's governor race, they were happy to let this guy be in Congress for the next 20, 30, 40 years and continue abusing women. And yet all these women will still line up and vote for Democrats because they don't think that that's problematic in any way, shape, or form. And circling back to this, I got to find this post because it is the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Now they've shifted from all these media outlets knew that Eric Swalwell was a scumbag. But you know who's to blame for not reporting it? Fox News.
Of course.
Fox News.
Fox News is always the bad guy.
And I gotta see if I can find that post. I thought I had it saved in my bookmarks and I don't. But I will send it to you as soon as I can. Let me see. Likes. I know it got the frog treatment. Aha, there we go. Found it. I love the way my brain works because I couldn't remember her name, couldn't remember her user handle. She's also got she's from China, so that tracks. But yeah, this is her. Let me see, read it. What we witnessed here is a years-long catastrophic failure. Are you going to pull it up? Then I'll read it.
Working on it.
Because this is fantastic. All right. This is what she wrote. Her name is Bethany Allen. She's head of China investigations for some media outlet and was with Axios. What we witnessed here is a years-long catastrophic failure of conservative media to demonstrate to Democratic staffers that they are fair and professional news outlets who can be trusted with sensitive information. Fox News should have been all over Swalwell's sexual misconduct years ago. It wasn't.
And well, I mean, and that's just the crazy part because normally they're like, "Oh, Fox is worthless," but yeah, now they want them. It's Fox's fault that this story never got covered, which is insane when you think about it. But to me, the insanity is, and the fact that they didn't seem to think we were going to be able to connect these dots with the alacrity with which these things dropped, and the coordinated campaign to basically take this guy out of the knees. This is obviously stuff they've known about for forever. And there was a clip that Gene played on his show that had Nancy Pelosi talking about it and how she never knew, but 90% of the time that she was telling the guy that was interviewing her that she never knew, she was looking away from the guy that she was talking to, which is a key indicator of deception, by the way. Because if you can't look somebody in the eye when you're telling them something, it normally means you're lying to them. Unless you're like me and one of them points in the wrong direction and they're looking at the wrong one. That's happened to me before.
Right. No, they all knew. They didn't tell Fox News. And if Fox News, Twitchy, Town Hall, any of those conservative outlets had run with this story, it would have been an unfair smear on Swalwell. It would have been a right-wing conspiracy and they would have all dismissed it and walked away. So spare me. Absolutely spare me because you are so transparent. Daylight shines through you.
It's just crazy when you think about it because, and again, look, and Rooster again with a great point in the chat, they let Ted Kennedy stay in the Senate I believe it was Senate for 40 years after he left a woman to die. So yeah, it was all about Swalwell's inconvenience because up until and I haven't looked at any polling recently since he's dropped out. But before he dropped out, there were 2 Republicans polling at the top of everything. And since California has jungle primaries, that would have been one Republican versus the other if it stays that way. So,
yeah, no, that's a very good point about Ted Kennedy. He was the lion of the Senate, and he was so well respected, and everybody loved Ted Kennedy. He fucking killed a woman and left her to die.
Yeah,
he drove her in the water and went home.
Dude, I mean, granted, all that happened before I even really knew what the hell was going on in the world. But finding out about that years later and realizing that nobody seemed to give a shit, I'm like, are you kidding me? That just does not sit well at all. But yeah, it's just funny because it's always fine until they get caught, and then when they get caught, it's like, why didn't somebody else tell us?
Right. So I just pulled up the NBC Bay Area ran an Emerson College poll. The 2 Republicans are still in the lead with 17 and 14% respectively, and they've both gone up since March. It's Republican Steve Hilton, Chad Bianco, then Tom Steyer, who's tied with Chad at 14, Katie Porter at 10, Javier Becerra services, right, under Biden? He was something under the Biden administration, or Xavier, excuse me. And then Matt Mahan, who I've never heard of, at 5. So the Republicans are still, I mean, that's a parade of crazy anyway. So the Republicans are still ahead, and it's a runoff. So the top 2 vote getters go to the general. It doesn't matter if they're both Republicans or Democrats. That's who will face off, right? Is that the way California works? At least that's the way I understand it.
Whichever are at the top of the ticket, whichever 2, no matter what letter is behind their name, then that's who the folks get to vote for. So if it's 2 Republicans, it's Republican versus Republican. If it's 2 Democrats, it's Democrat versus Democrat. If it's split, then it's usual. It's like everything else is for everybody else.
Funny as hell if it's a 2 Republican race in California,
dude. I mean, it's shaping up that way, which honestly has another regular contributor here rather mad because he's like, everybody's talking about Virginia. None of you talk about California when California is majority red and has been for a long time. And if you guys were paying half as much attention to California as you do to Virginia, you probably wouldn't be in this mess.
and that's true. It's just right now, Virginia is the pressing issue and so brazen that eyes have to be on Virginia right now. If we get a Republican in California, maybe. I don't know anything about either of those Republicans other than they have an R after their name. Maybe they can start to clean things up in California. It'll be very hard to do when you probably still have a Democrat supermajority in the state legislature, but anything is better than nothing. And I apologize for peeking out my window because I'm going to assume that was a car backfiring because I live not far from a major street and not gunshots, but there was just something out my window. So
yeah, I don't think we heard it. So hopefully it was just a backfire, not gunfire. But
yeah,
if you got to do the whole grade school drill, we'll understand.
At this point, just Jesus take me at this point, honest to goodness, because it has been a couple of weeks. Let me say that.
Well, I mean, Rooster, to answer your question, I don't think there are any, as far as politicians, real Republicans left in California.
Mm-hmm.
Because up until recently, even the Democrats in Oklahoma would have been considered Republicans anywhere else. And
Right.
that's not really the case here anymore either, thanks to the gentrification of Oklahoma City, because holy crap. We're getting a lot of the granola sniffers in here now, and I'm not a fan. That's one of the reasons why I live
they're spreading like locusts. They can, they ruin their state. Now they're going to ruin the rest of ours.
Yeah, exactly. But in the next thing that I definitely wanted to get to today, Scott Jennings is back in the news, and anytime I have a chance, especially on a Friday, to play a Jennings clip, I'm going to take it. But here we have him schooling somebody else on CNN. I'm surprised they still pay this guy. Really am, being honest. Let me make sure I've got it queued up though, because it's in there, but it's not on the right screen. So one sec. Okay, there we go.
This is really about what this president has said he will do to the people of Iran in order to get that outcome. And I think that is what has brought in the Pope.
You're living several days ago. Where do we stand today? We have a ceasefire.
Sorry. I'm so sorry to give context.
We have a
You're
ceasefire.
Right.
We have a blockade that's working. Basically, no bombs are falling right now. And we're on the brink, hopefully, of a diplomatic solution that will take away nuclear material from these fanatics and make the region and the world a safer place.
And
Is this
if that
not an
happens-
acceptable outcome?
If this happens, I think everyone will be absolutely thrilled. I think
But
the
you'll be- but
context-
you'll still be
why not? I think
arguing
the
about the
context-
memes and the tweets?
No. I think the context was we were talking about religion, and so therefore, and the fight with the Pope, and so therefore, I was giving the context of how this all started. You know, it's not.
It's okay to cheer for a
nothing
good
starts-
outcome. It's okay to
nothing
cheer for a
starts-
good outcome.
First of all, don't wear a tie like that if you're a woman. It's a stupid look.
I was wondering if you were going to say something, because I was like, I'm not touching that. But yeah, that was
Nope,
kind of.
I will say it. Dress like a woman. You know, the Annie Hall, baby boom, Diane Keaton thing works if you're Diane Keaton. She died last fall. Let it go. No, he's absolutely right. Trump was not going to annihilate an entire civilization, and the Pope was not talking about those comments. The Pope met, and I say this as a Catholic, who I believe Pope Leo is an improvement over Pope Francis, but there are still some bugs clearly that need to be worked out. He met with David Axelrod, comes out against war, also says Muslims and Christians can coexist. Every country where that's tried that, the Christians get slaughtered. The Christians are the minority if they're allowed to exist at all. At all. And I'm sorry, you are the leader of the Catholic Church. You believe that that is the one true faith, and Protestants can disagree, that's fine. But I'm just talking about what the Pope is supposed to believe. You are supposed to believe that that is the one true faith. You are supposed to defend that faith tirelessly. And they don't, this notion that we can go along, no, you can't. The Muslims would destroy the Vatican in the blink of an eye. If Iran had a nuclear missile, which we learned they were capable of reaching Europe, they would have bombed Rome before you could say, stop, I'll praise Allah. They will destroy you. They will kill you. There is no appeasement. There is no coexistence. You either stand up and fight for what you believe in, which is what I prefer to do, or you say, everything is kind of the same. Then what's the point? Why are you the Pope? If you don't believe that that religion is the truth and worth defending, then why are you the leader of the Pope, of the Catholic Church? I think that's a very fair question to ask, because if I was the Pope and that was my job, defending that from people who attack it, from religions, and I don't even think Islam is a religion, but I'm going to call it a religion, who want to destroy anybody who isn't Islamic, who isn't a Muslim, that should be your priority. Not yelling at Donald Trump because he's bombing a regime that not only killed 40,000 of its own people, but has spent the last 50 years killing Americans and others around the world as the largest state sponsor of terror.
I mean, look, as a Protestant, I will say this. One of the things that drives me crazy about this is exactly what you just said. The Pope is supposed to be the leader of an entire church. It's one thing when a Protestant minister goes off the rails because they're the leader of a particular church, not the entire church. And you can decide whether you want to listen to that or not. But when the Pope comes out and says something like Jesus doesn't listen to the prayers of those who make war, that is blasphemous.
Yeah, Joan of Arc, Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. That's a prayer we say every day. Saint Michael is depicted with a sword. There have been wars, and I would argue this war with Iran is a just war under Catholic just war doctrine. It is legitimate authority, the right reasons, a proportional response.
Yeah, I mean, this checks all the right boxes for a proper and just holy war.
Yes, it does. Absolutely does. And this notion that we can't fight, and I've said it, and I think we talked about it the last time, pacifism is just as disrespectful of life as being a warmonger. Because you say that my belief in peace is more important than defending innocent life. And there comes a time when you have to stand up and defend innocent life. And as the leader of the Catholic Church, you should. And I vacillate back and forth on this, and I don't know which one is worse. If the hordes of Muslims showed up at the gates of the Vatican, I'm not sure if they would let them in and just go, take it, it's yours, we don't want to fight. Or if the Swiss Guard would actually stand up and fight and show how hypocritical this whole thing is. Oh, much like the immigration laws. I think it probably would be the latter, because they criticize us for our immigration laws. Try breaking the Vatican's immigration laws. Let me know how that works out for you, because they're tough. They enforce them as they should. And I'm fine with them enforcing them. I'm not fine with them turning around and saying, America, shame, shame. You can't do that. You have to let everybody in. And it comes down to, and God, this makes me so mad. It comes down to money. The Catholic Church has lost billions because Donald Trump cut off the immigration fund spigot, and they're mad about that. And I'm sorry, that's not how it's supposed to be. This isn't supposed to be about money. I thought money was the root of all evil, and coveting money was a sin. But apparently it's not when you're getting $1 billion to resettle migrants into this country. And it's very frustrating right now to be a Catholic and a conservative, because it feels like you have no home. And they're never critical of the Democrats who want to kill babies, who let criminals loose, who do all these evil things that are actually against Catholic teaching. Like, that is a no-no. Abortion is a no-no. Birth control is a no-no. There's no just birth control criteria. You are not allowed to use it. There's no, well, you can get an abortion under these circumstances. No, it's a no. But there is a reasonable approach to war and a reasonable approach to immigration. Yet those are the two issues that they act hardline on, and it's very, very frustrating.
Yeah, as a Protestant, I put this out yesterday. Day 19,285-ish, that I'm glad I'm not Catholic. Someone should remind the Pope that David himself wrote 73 of the Psalms, which were basically prayers, and that he also waged war. So, just saying. I mean, you know, this whole going to war is, especially in a religious sense, is not new. And I think this goes into something that I've talked about on a lot of the men's mental health shows that I do. There's a big difference between being a peacekeeper and a peacemaker. The Pope is trying to be a peacemaker, or peacekeeper, not a peacemaker, because peacekeepers do whatever they have to do just to make sure the status quo gets maintained. Peacemakers know that sometimes you gotta be mean to bring peace back.
Yeah.
That's just the truth of it. And as far as this whole cohabitation thing, they have told us they want us dead. There are members of the Somali people in our states right now saying that we didn't come here to assimilate, we came here to colonize, and eventually all of this is going to be ours. We now have members of Islam in Texas saying that all of your Texas now belongs to us. And people are just like, they don't really mean it. It's just talk. But that's because they're used to Christians who bluster a lot, and then we don't really do very much unless it's taking care of our own. And this is one of the things that drives me the most crazy about the whole Islam idea anyway, because all I've ever been told is there are a lot more peaceful Muslims than there are the crazy ones. Well, you know what happens when there happens to be crazy Christians? Normally we deal with them. When's the last time anybody heard of anything about Westboro Baptist Church?
Right.
Just that.
Like, they are, and honestly, when you see them in person, they were really pathetic. But no, absolutely right. And if we don't stop it now, just like with this immigration thing where, oh, you guys are too harsh and it's so painful to separate. Well, you keep letting things get out of control. When you actually have to come back and correct it, it's going to be painful. It's like, I use it as like the metaphor for weight loss, which has been a struggle for me for years. The longer you let it go, the heavier you get, the harder it becomes to lose that weight. And the more dramatic you have to be in the things you do, like the diet and the exercise. And it's much more visible than saying, hey, I'm going to start these good habits when I'm, a kid or a teenager or a young adult, as opposed to a 40-year-old woman. Same thing applies here. It's going to get worse, and the solutions are going to be bloody and violent. So we need to nip it in the bud now. And my late father-in-law was talking about this 25 years ago, and he was right about everything.
So I hadn't heard this, and if this is actually accurate, that's kind of scary. But according to Rooster in the chat, the Pope had said they could sooner have communion with Islamist members than they could with allowing Protestants to have communion.
If he said that, that is absolutely blasphemous, because there is, at least when I was a Lutheran, there is a little bit of daylight between the Lutheran Church and the Catholic Church. I mean, my dad became a Missouri Synod Lutheran for the last decade or so of his life. He was Wells, Wisconsin Lutheran before that. Missouri Lutheran, they made the sign of the cross. They had icons in church. There were a lot of Catholic things in there. I absolutely no. First of all, Islam isn't even a religion. It is a socio-political movement that uses religion as a veneer. And this notion that we can commune with these people who want to kill me, who want to rape me, who think that this is sinful and that I deserve to be stoned because I'm not covering up my hair, and I won't, because fuck you, I'm not a Muslim. His comment was along the lines of no, absolutely not, because I have never had it. Even when I left the Lutheran Church and became a Catholic, yeah, my pastor said I was going to go to hell, but he didn't issue a fatwa on me. He didn't try to kill me. He let me go and convert to Catholicism. There's a fundamental difference between Protestants and Muslims there. And I find, as a former Protestant whose father was a Protestant until the day he died, I find those comments deeply, deeply offensive by the Pope. No, absolutely a fundamental misunderstanding. I would rather spend time with the most radical evangelical than a second with a Muslim. Sorry. And take it from somebody who lives in an area where there is a large Muslim population. There's a halal grocery store 2 blocks from my house. They creep out at the gym over here. No, give me the Lutherans any day of the week. Thank you very much.
All right, so before we get into the closing of the show, a couple of quick hits. First of all, it looks like, according to an article that I just saw, it is now becoming apparent that Democrats knew in California all about Swalwell and how shady he was. And so that dam is starting to break.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I just saw a report that the botched Afghanistan withdrawal is getting a fresh review, and this one will be a lot deeper than the last one. So basically, just to kind of give you a quick review of the article. According to the article, the Pentagon's Afghan Withdrawal Special Review Panel has finished the main interview phase of its investigation into the botched withdrawal in 2021 and is now moving toward a final report. The panel, created under Defense Secretary Secretary of War Pete Hegseth at President Trump's direction says it has interviewed top military and civilian officials involved in the withdrawal, including senior commanders like none other than Mark Milley and Kenneth McKenzie, and reviewed more than apparently 9 million documents. According to the update, there's an argument that this new review is far broader than the earlier Biden-era Defense Department review under Austin, which it says examined only about 3,000 documents and was too narrow and overclassified. The stated goal is to provide a more complete and public accounting of what went wrong, especially the systemic and leadership failures. So yeah, apparently what was shaping up to not be a good end for a week for Democrats, apparently is going to keep going.
Right, and it'll be swept under the rug and dismissed as they scream and rant and holler that Hegseth is unqualified. I'm sorry, but I think 13 service members died in all of Operation Epic Fury. We didn't lose a single service member when we ousted Maduro. He's successfully run several operations now as Secretary of War. I think he's proved that he knows his shit, and his critics need to apologize to him. Just because you don't like him, just because Trump appointed him, doesn't change the objective truth on the ground. I'm going to be very interested to read that report when it comes out, because I'm sure it will be damning. Absolutely sure it will be damning.
So the other guy that hasn't been brought up very much with not the Hegseth stuff, but the Swalwell stuff as we get ready to close things out, is Ruben Gallego. And he's in a lot of trouble right now too, and he's been spinning and just keep swimming as much as possible. But he's kind of starting to flame out a little bit because everybody's like, dude, you guys were partying together all the time. There's no way you didn't know. And of course, in a recent interview, he said, well, I heard allegations that he might have been a little too flirty. Yeah, dude, as I said on Behind Enemy Lines earlier this week, I'm pretty sure that if somebody redid the whole college scene of the two guys banging one chick and high-fiving each other, that was probably those two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sorry. A guy who serves his 9-month pregnant wife divorce papers so he can marry his side piece knew his best friend was banging the interns, sometimes apparently against their will. So there's no way he didn't know. None whatsoever.
All right. So as we get ready to close things out, what was your favorite story for the week?
My favorite story from the week was from the state of Wisconsin. A couple of months ago, leftists in the state filed a lawsuit saying that that the Wisconsin school choice program is unconstitutional because it doesn't meet the constitutional requirement for funding public schools. The Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty came out and said, here's how much we're spending on Wisconsin public schools. And it's somewhere between $18,000 and $19,000 per student. Keep in mind, like a third of Wisconsin students can't read. Third of them can't do math on grade level. Students in Milwaukee public schools, Black students in particular, are testing at the bottom nationally on reading and math. But the leftists say we don't adequately fund the schools. When Will talked to the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, talked to parents who, one, didn't know how much we were spending on public schools, and when they did learn, said it was either just enough or too much, the DPI responded by hiding this information from the public. They're trying to hide this information, and it doesn't matter because we lost the Supreme Court election, so now the Supreme Court is going to rule and overturn school choice, and pardon me, I've got a tickle. I apologize. I've been battling this cold, and every once in a while it manifests itself in this nasty cough. Anyway, they're going to defund school choice under this grounds that it's unconstitutional. So we have a long legal battle ahead of us. But the DPI is laying the groundwork to hide this information from the courts so we can't build a case as to why school choice is not unconstitutional.
It's all a bunch of craziness. All right, so I don't really have a contribution of my own, but I did pull somebody's story that I really got a kick out of today, and I didn't get a chance to talk about it on the Daily Show. Ward Clark put out a story from Red State today. Pause in effect, bear suit insurance fraudsters have been sent to the slammer. So for those of you who may not know about this story, apparently 3 Los Angeles area residents were recently convicted in what could be termed definitely an unusual insurance fraud scheme, using a person in a bear costume to fake attacks on high-end vehicles to collect insurance payouts. As part of the California Department of Insurance's Operation Bear Claw, Police Officer 39 of Valley Village, Ruben Tamzarian, age 26 of Glendale, and Vahi Matakreden.
Oh, those are American names. Okay.
Age 32 of Glendale, yeah, pleaded no contest, otherwise known as nolo contendere, to felony insurance fraud and were sentenced to 180 days in jail and 2 years of supervised probation and were ordered to pay restitution. A fourth suspect, Arat Shakranian, again, very American sounding name there, age 39 of Glendale, is scheduled to return to court in September for a preliminary hearing. So yeah, they took a page out of the whole Bigfoot scam and decided to use a bear suit instead. I think it probably would have been more believable if they would have used a Bigfoot suit. Just saying.
I mean, I gotta give him credit for being creative, but you were gonna get busted, guys.
All right. So since we've come to the end of our time together and I've got some editing work that I have to absolutely get done before I do the next button switch here in a couple hours, where can folks find you, ma'am?
You can find me over at townhall.com where I write every day, Monday through Friday. I've got a couple pieces I got to write for the weekend that I'll be working on this evening after we bug out and go someplace where there's a basement because the storms are heading my way. So find me there on Town Hall, Twitter at Ranty Amy Curtis right there on the bottom, or go to Amazon, Amy Curtis Gaslight, buy my book because I love it when those royalty checks pop up.
Nice. Yeah, you should really buy the book. I actually plan on buying it here soon. I haven't yet because every time I think I'm going to have the extra money, something blows up, but I think I can manage it in the next couple of weeks. We had a very delayed Christmas because of a death in the family, so I'm still dealing with the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're going to get out of here. Again, as a reminder, you can find me always here somewhere at KLRN Radio, usually either behind a mic or behind the boards. Speaking of behind the boards, I'll be pushing buttons to relay Lyle's show from SHR Media here at 7 Eastern. Then I'll be back with the lovely Aggie Rican at 8:30 p.m. Eastern tonight. Tomorrow night, I'll be relaying for Lyle again, and then we have Juxtaposition tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Sunday night, I think I have made a decision. So I'm switching things around a little bit. Sunday night's now going to start being America Off the Rails, and Monday nights is going to be Kingdom and Country because it kind of got boring doing back-to-back political shows on the same night. And I thought about doing a more specialized deep dive on the hour-long one instead of the long format, but that's what everybody else does, and I don't want to do that. But anyway, so that's going to do it for this one. I think I did finally maybe get the board to listen to me. We'll find out in a second, but we're going to get out of here. Again, wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to hang out with us today. I know we were down a couple of folks. Brad was having some technical issues, and Sean has a new gig, and BZ was up late, and I haven't heard from him. So he's in West Coast time, so he's probably chilling out somewhere. But anyway, again, thank you everybody. Hope you have a great Friday, and I'll be back again here in just a little bit because she writes all the time, I broadcast all the time. I think between the two of us, we should start a whole workaholics dependency group or something.
Yeah, we should.
I'll be back here in a little bit. We'll be back next week, and enjoy the rest of your Friday.
Bye, everybody.